Here is the most honest thing I can tell you about this question. Nobody knows the answer. Not the physicists, not the philosophers, not the theologians. And here is what makes this interesting. The reason nobody knows is not because we haven't thought hard enough. It's because the question sits right at the edge of what human reasoning can reach. And what happens at that edge is far stranger than either side of this debate usually admits. Let's actually go there. The argument for a creator goes something like this. Everything that exists has a cause. The universe exists. Therefore, the universe has a cause. And that cause, something that can bring an entire universe into being, must be something extraordinary, timeless, powerful beyond measure, existing outside of physical reality. People call that God. This argument is old. The medieval Islamic philosopher Al Ghazali made a version of it in the 11th century. Thomas Aquinas made another version in the 13th century, and a modern philosopher named William Lane Craig has made it famous again in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. It's called the Kalam cosmological argument, and on the surface, it looks bulletproof. But pay attention to the first line. Everything that exists has a cause. That sounds obvious. It matches everything we observe in daily life. You drop a glass, it breaks because it hit the floor. A child is born because two people had one. Every effect traces back to a cause. This is so deeply built into how our brains work that it feels like a law of reality itself. Here is the problem. It might only be a law of reality inside the universe. Think about what the Big Bang actually tells us. Around 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was in an incredibly hot, dense state and it began to expand. But here is the part that often gets skipped in popular conversations. Time itself, as we understand it, appears to have begun at or near that event. Space began, time began, the laws of physics as we know them began. So, when you ask what caused the universe, you are asking what happened before time began. And that question may not have an answer, not because we haven't looked hard enough, but because before is a time word and time did not exist before the universe. Asking what came before the Big Bang might be like asking what is north of the North Pole. You can ask it. It sounds meaningful, but the question breaks down when you examine what it actually requires. Stephen Hawking described it this way using what he called the no boundary proposal. He suggested that if you trace the universe backward in time, time itself gradually becomes more like a spatial direction. There is no sharp starting edge, no moment of creation, no before. The universe simply has no boundary in time, the same way the surface of the earth has no edge. You never fall off it, you never reach a wall, it just curves back on itself. If that is true, the question, what caused the universe to begin, loses its grip entirely. There is no beginning in the traditional sense that would demand a cause now. Before you think science has defeated the need for a creator, stop, because the counter argument is serious. Hawking's no boundary proposal is a hypothesis. It is mathematically interesting, but it's not settled science. There are physicists who challenge it directly. And even if time had no beginning in one sense, you still have a universe full of matter, energy, and extraordinarily precise physical laws. And all of that is sitting there, existing, demanding some kind of explanation. Here is where it gets even stranger. Look at the physical constants of this universe. Numbers like the strength of gravity, the mass of an electron, the rate at which the universe expands. If you changed any of these by even a tiny amount, the universe would collapse, or it would expand too fast for anything to form, or atoms would never hold together, or stars would never ignite. The numbers are set in an extraordinarily precise way for complexity and for life to exist. This is called fine tuning, and it is real. The scientific community does not dispute that the constants appear finely tuned. What they dispute is what that means. One explanation, a creator set the numbers deliberately. Another explanation, there are an enormous number of universes, possibly infinite, each with different constants, and we obviously find ourselves in one where life is possible, because in the others, there is nobody to ask the question. This second idea is called the multiverse. Both explanations have serious problems. The creator explanation raises an immediate question: who or what created the creator? If everything that exists requires a cause, then the creator requires a cause too. The usual theological answer is that the creator is a necessary being, something that by its own nature cannot fail to exist. But that is a very specific philosophical claim, and it is not obvious why we should accept it without argument. Saying God exists necessarily is a conclusion dressed up as a premise. The multiverse explanation also has problems. It is currently untestable. We have no way to observe other universe. And more fundamentally, even if a multiverse exists, you still have to explain where the multiverse came from and why it has the kind of laws that can generate universes at all. Both explanations push the mystery back one level rather than eliminating it. here is the deepest problem with this entire debate, and almost nobody says it plainly. The word nothing is doing enormous unearned work on both sides. When theologians say nothing comes from nothing, therefore something must have created the universe, they are using nothing to mean absolute non being, no space, no time, no laws, no quantum fields, no anything. And in that sense, sure, it is hard to see how something arises spontaneously. But when physicists say the universe could have arisen from nothing, they almost always mean a quantum vacuum. And a quantum vacuum is not nothing, it is a physical state, it has structure, it has laws governing it, it fluctuates, it produces particles. It is, in a very real sense, something, just something with a very low energy level. When Lawrence Krauss wrote a book called A Universe from Nothing, the philosopher David Albert pointed out exactly this problem. The quantum vacuum is not nothing, it is a sophisticated physical object described by quantum field theory. You haven't explained something from nothing, you've explained something from something, and then call that something nothing because it is hard to visualize. This matters enormously because if both sides are using nothing to mean different things, they are not actually having the same argument, they are talking past each other. So, where does this leave us? The honest answer is we do not know whether the universe required a creator. And the reason we do not know is not ignorance that can be fixed by more science or more theology. It is a fundamental limitation. Our entire framework for understanding causation, A caused B, which caused C, is built from experiences inside the universe, inside time, inside a reality that already exists. When we try to apply that framework to the origin of the universe itself, we are using a tool in a situation it was not built for. Imagine trying to weigh yourself using a scale that only works when placed on a flat surface, and you want to know what you weigh while you are falling through the air. The scale is not broken, it is just being used outside of its operating conditions. Causality may be exactly like that. A real principle, genuinely reliable inside the universe and simply undefined at the boundary of existence. What physics can tell us is getting more precise and more surprising every decade. Quantum cosmology, the field that tries to apply quantum mechanics to the universe as a whole, is actively working on models of how spacetime itself might have originated. Loop quantum cosmology suggests the Big Bang may have been a bounce from a previous contracting universe, meaning the universe may be eternal in a different sense, cycling through states without a true beginning. Vilenkin's tunneling model suggests the universe could have quantum tunneled into existence from a state with no classical geometry whatsoever, though again that state is not nothing in the strict philosophical sense. None of these models are proven. All of them are mathematically serious attempts by genuine scientists, and all of them, even if correct, leave philosophical questions open about why any of these laws or states exist at all rather than pure non being, the theist will say. The very fact that something exists rather than nothing is the miracle. The fact that there are laws at all, the fact that those laws produce complexity, life, consciousness, beings capable of sitting here and asking this question. That chain of wonder points somewhere, even if we cannot name it precisely. The skeptic will say the very fact that we are here to ask the question guarantees that the universe looks favorable to us. We cannot observe a universe where nothing formed or no one existed, because in that universe there is no one to observe anything. Our existence selects for a life permitting universe automatically with no designer required. Both positions are logically coherent, neither is fully provable. And that is not a failure of human intelligence, it is a property of the question. Here is what we can say, and say clearly the argument everything has a cause, therefore the universe has a cause, applies causality to the very thing that causality depends on, time and space time, and that application may be incoherent rather than enlightening. The argument does not definitively prove a creator. The counter argument, quantum mechanics shows the universe can arise without a cause, mislabels the quantum vacuum as nothing, and that sleight of hand does not definitively disprove a creator either. The fine tuning of physical constants is real and remarkable. Whether it points to design or to an unobservable multiverse or to a deeper physical theory we have not yet found, we do not know. What we do know is that the universe is here, that it operates by laws precise enough to produce atoms, stars, planets, oceans, DNA, and conscious beings who can look up at the night sky and feel something that does not quite have a name. Whether that happened because something willed it, or because reality is simply the kind of thing that can will itself into existence, or because the question of why anything is one our minds are not equipped to resolve, that remains genuinely open. The most intellectually honest position is not yes, there is a creator, and it is not no, there isn't, it is we are standing at the edge of what our minds can reach, And the view from that edge, even without an answer, is extraordinary. There is something worth sitting with here. For most of human history, the question, why does anything exist, was answered by stories, creation myths, divine commands, cosmic eggs, sleeping gods who breathed out the world. Those stories were not stupid. They were attempts, with the tools available, to face the same raw strangeness that modern physics now faces with different tools and arrives at the same wall. We replaced mythology with philosophy and philosophy with mathematics, and the wall is still there. It's not the same wall. We understand far more about the structure of reality now than we did 1,000 years ago. But the deepest question, why is there something rather than nothing? And did that something need help to get here? Has not been resolved by any of our progress. It has, if anything, become sharper and more precise as our knowledge has grown. That should not make you feel hopeless. It should make you feel something closer to wonder. We live inside a universe so old and vast and strange that its own origin sits beyond the reach of the minds it produced, and yet those minds keep reaching. That is not nothing. That might, depending on your view of things, be everything.